Hello and welcome to Econ 424-524. My name is Ed Durbin. I'll be instructing this course this term, and this is labor economics. And what I want to do is do a quick walkthrough, slash walkthrough of the syllabus to kind of give you an idea of where we're going with this class. First up, let's take a look at my cell phone number I have listed here. I would appreciate if you don't text, but if you do text, and you can contact me pretty much anytime, be sure to let me know who you are, okay? Also, of course, probably the easiest way to contact me would be through email, which is also my email, which is also listed here. Basically, this class runs in 2-week segments as we're walking through, and again, walk through the syllabus, and it's fairly self-explanatory. So let's move on. The overall, what we're looking at in this course, this is again labor economics. If we go back to the earliest concepts, the earliest introduction, if you will, to economics has to do with the circular flow of real economic activity. And labor, which is we're looking at, this is a microeconomics course because we're drilling down on specific portions of that circular flow of real economic activity. In this case, we're talking about labor. Labor is one of those productive resources that are supplied by the household going to the firm, that are being employed at the firm. The other productive resources, or the productive resources, would include, again, labor, entrepreneurship, capital, which would be physical capital. And the underlying portion of the physical capital would be financial capital, and that would be debt capital, which would be bonds, and also equity capital, which would be stocks. And the underlying portion of that, or the owners of that, would be the owners. Those are the owners of the firm. And lastly, we would have land. Land would include such things as the actual property, and in addition to that, all the minerals that would be underneath that land, if you will. So back to this concept of labor. Again, this one aspect of the productive resource mix. One of the most important topics of when we're discussing labor or any of the productive resources has to do with the derived demand. The derived demand for the labor that we're talking about, meaning that in its very basic terms, we're looking at what that labor means to the firm. Why are you actually being hired by that firm? You're being hired by the firm in order to produce products for the household as consumer. Very straightforward. And so that's the justification for hiring you. So you have to kind of pull your weight at the firm. You actually have to be productive in any job that you're at. So this is that justification, if you will, for hiring you. So if you need 10 people, 10 components of labor, if you will, to produce 1,000 units, and to produce 2,000 units, you may need 20 units of labor. Or if you are more productive, if you will, you may only need an additional 5 units, so 15 total. So this is when we start getting into the productivity of that labor. By applying that labor, how much cost is being added in terms of the product that's being sold on the product markets or the goods and services markets. How much of that labor is actually embedded in the products that are going forward. At any rate, this is the derived demand piece that we're talking about, and we'll get into this in greater detail as we go through. Another concept of labor has to do with the human capital side, meaning how much capital, financial, physical, or capital is embedded in that labor. The human capital is kind of the composite term of that, meaning then how much. Here's a quick example. So you look at farmer 150 years ago versus a farmer today. There was much more physical side to that farmer 100 years ago. And versus today, it's much more capital intensive farming, that is. And farmers have much more human capital embedded in them as well. Typically today, a farmer would be a college graduate. It's not unusual where you would have college graduates MBAs and so on and so forth on the farm. So this is the changing nature, if you will, of labor, as we'll be walking through as we go forward. So onward. And this is just a quick rundown of the topics and drilling down on different types of things that are associated with this labor. And again, there's a list, and this is from the syllabus. I won't go into greater detail other than just to say that we walk through such topics again as labor in terms of that circular flow, the derived demand for labor, and so on and so forth as we walk through. So the next portion I want to focus on is the book itself. This is George Borjas, a pretty typical, traditional, if you will, book on this labor. He's very well respected in the field of labor economics, and what I have is required, if you will, for the course would be the 7th edition. But if you can't get your hands on the 7th edition, the 6th edition would be fine. But the main thing to keep an eye on is as we walk through, as we track through the various chapters going through in the course, just keep an eye on the headers, if you will, for those chapters. The second portion is my econ newsletter itself, and this is the New Paradigm in Economics, or the New Economic Paradigm Associates. And you'll notice that my name is the only one here, but that's because my associate was Dr. Donald Byrne. He was my instructor, colleague, mentor over many years, and we've been running this newsletter since 2003, so we've been out there quite a long time. Dr. Byrne passed away a couple of years ago. But I'm trying to keep up with the newsletter, and we will be pointing to this as we kind of go through. So I encourage you to read what you can so far as the newsletter is concerned. So this is, of course, near and dear to everyone's heart, looking at the evaluation components, how the course is actually going, how the grades, if you will, are going to be ginned up as we kind of go through. 3 basic points. One is the discussion board, and this is something that I'm expecting 5 total responses, if you will, 3 responses to the questions that I pose, and 2 follow-up commentary comments, if you will, from your fellow students. This will become, this is self-explanatory as you go through, as we go through the course. So there will be discussion boards assigned per module. Secondly, we're looking at quizzes. I have weekly, but it would actually be every 2 weeks, of course, in the way we have it laid out here. These quizzes are untimed. You can take your time, meaning you would walk through, and I would suggest that you use these quizzes as study guides as you go through, meaning that as you're going through the lecture material that I have posted on Blackboard and going through your readings, keep your quizzes open, and as the topics come up, you should be able to answer the quizzes and get, I'm expecting you to get 100% on the quizzes. Finally, of course, are the exams. These are timed exams. There are 2 midterm exams, if you will, and a final exam. So there are 3 exams in total. At any rate, that's fairly self-explanatory. So the grading breakdown for the course, we have graduate students and undergraduate students in this class. So the grading breakdown is as indicated. Of course, the graduate students, the expectation is for higher percentages, if you will, to attain the higher grades. Okay. And so lastly, this is just a quick look at drilling down, if you will, on the syllabus and looking at a particular module. In this case, it's module 3. I just wanted to include something where there was an exam, so that's so we get all the components, if you will, of those grading aspects of the course as we covered just in the previous slide. So in this case, we're looking at discussion board, the points total with that, the module quizzes, if you will, and the exams. This would be for the first exam. So keep in mind that I'm still working on this at the moment, but this is the basic breakdown of the course as we walk through. Thank you. Enjoy.